absolute Knicks streets. The streets are buzzing as the Knicks go on a 2-game winning streak, winning back-to-back. Great performances. We've got lots to break down. Welcome in to the post-game live as the New York Knicks win 119-102 and blow the Washington Wizards out off a huge Karl-Anthony Towns performance. Huffing and stuffing. And the New York Knicks defense was impressive. I think that's where they really turned this game around. But the aggression from Karl-Anthony Towns that he showed with a 33-point, 13 rebound performance. The Knicks got up 41 threes, shot 36%, and were aggressive all night. And 33 points off the bench with Josh Hart and Jordan Clarkson continuing their hot night last night. Karl-Anthony Towns takes the game ball in this one. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to break down in this one as the New York Knicks get above 500 now, 4-3. Beating the Wizards, obviously you take that for what it is. But the most impressive thing is that the New York Knicks really did it in style. A funky first quarter where it was, looking like a second night of a back-to-back. But the New York Knicks really turned on the Jets. And I thought Karl-Anthony Towns changed the ball game. Mikal Bridges, 4 of 8, 50% from the field, was excellent. OG Anunoby, 7 of 13 as well. All the starters in double figures, along with Josh Hart off the bench. Landry Shamet got the start, with Mitchell Robinson being rested on the second night of a back-to-back. Some positive signs from Yarbel Sele getting 13 minutes. Still couldn't hit a field goal, but got to the free throw line, ended up with 1 point, but a plus 10, and gave you 3 rebounds, 2 offensive. Quiet night from Deuce McBride offensively, but Jordan Clarkson, JC, has arrived well and truly. And I do think that tightening this rotation is really key to continuing as Minnesota come into the building, right? Coming up on Wednesday night, as Karl-Anthony Towns was asked in the walk-off how he feels about facing his former team. And he said, I'm a Knick now. I ain't thinking about Minnesota. So that's going to be spicy. Looking forward to that. Chris Gotti, buzzer beater, Tendrell, and Shez V, everyone coming through. Feel good vibes, as buzzer beater says, 4-0 at home. MSG is now a death trap for the opponents. I like that, buzzer. Look, Washington, they're going to be, lower down in the standings, of course, but they're on the come up. They've got some good young players with length, and I think the Knicks really needed to snap into gear and shake them off. And I think the leaders stepped up. Cat, Brunson, been really impressed with Brunson's adjustment, right, to the offense. So our poll in tonight's chat is, what has impressed you the most, right? Option number 1 is Knicks handling their business on a second night of a back-to-back. Option number 2 is the Cat bully ball play on full effect. Karl-Anthony Towns got to the line 7 times as well. Shot 85% with the 33 points, the 13 rebounds to go with that. Third option is Hart and Clarkson, man. Cart, we can call them a ballin' right now. Hart-Clarkson duo really solidifying the Knicks bench, right? Hart with 12 points and Clarkson with another 15 piece, adding 33 points off our bench. So big things to come off our bench. So really looking forward to seeing those guys continue to click. Last but not least is Brunson's adjustment, right? I think that's been impressive, and I think it hasn't been stated enough, right? The offense looks really good, and it's very early days. 7 games into the season now. Yes, our record needs to improve. However, when you're at the point where you've got the brand new coach, faster paced system, the threes are up, the assists are up, and the New York Knicks got 32 assists tonight And I do think Brunson is really doing, the team solid by running the offense and getting guys going. OG McCall especially look really, really good. Uh, as the New York Knicks had the 3-point lead, right? It was a dicey second quarter where they lost the lead, got it back again off a huge Karl Anthony Towns and 4-point play, right? As we see here, he was stupidly fouled, and this changed the momentum of tonight's ball game, man. On the buzzer, right? 4-point play. Uh, we see the full play unwind, but credit to Josh Hart. This was play of the game, right? 0 seconds on the clock, and they bailed us out, ladies and gentlemen. So we really are in a situation where we're doing great. As we've got some trolls in the building, must be doing something good. We've got some trolls in here. Uh, Peace, happiness, and blessings to everyone. Buzzer Beater says, bring on Philly. Loving that. Shez V says, super happy with Clarkson. Was looking dim last week. Look, it's so early in the season. I just think it speaks to the overreactions, you know. As I said, it's an adjustment, right? But we went deep into the playoffs last season with a brand new coach, with a new message and a new voice, and some new guys in that locker room, right? I still have question marks over depth. Um, tightening that rotation. It's no surprise to me that that's been the key for the Knicks looking a lot stronger. But when we do say that, other guys are going to get their opportunities this season, whether it be Hukporty, Kolek, Diawara, Pacome, right? We are quite thin in terms of experience, in terms of next man up, the 9th, 10th, 11th guy. Uh, and I do think that's probably our weakness right now. But if Shamet's playing really well, 11 points off the bench, 3 of 8. If Clarkson plays like this, if Hart plays like this as well, and then you're in a really, really good position. We got some extended garbage time with Kolek, Diawara, Pacome, and Huck all getting 3 to 4 minutes late. So happy for those guys that the leaders got the blowout in this one. But in my opinion, guys, it's all about the space, right? The spacing. There's lineups with Cat, right? Deuce, Clarkson, Hart, and Brunson, obviously with McCall, OG, right? We really only have 2 non-shooters in the rotation with Hart and Mitch. Tonight, Mitch didn't play, so the spacing was excellent, and I think obviously getting stops was the main thing. Washington's offense, man, isn't great. It is what it is, but I think they were aggressive. They were missing AJ Johnson, obviously, who they picked up in a trade from Milwaukee. But Koulibaly was making life difficult. And I think, Karl Anthony Towns really just going to that matchup was so key early. As Gray says, I like this. We didn't just see a house cat tonight. We saw a jungle cat. Definitely, man. And that's what you want to see against inferior opponents. Food, with that said. Absolute food. Uh, Daniel Berry's in the building. Simon, salute. Yeah, Hart is getting back to himself, and that's the most pleasing thing. Talking the story dropped yesterday from Fred Katz about him feeling nerve, injuries on his hand, and sometimes he doesn't have that feeling on a couple of fingers, which is not what you want to hear. But so far so good. It ain't affecting his play in these last 2. And so far, I think it's vindicated to not have that surgery. If he can be out there, contribute like tonight, man. Let's pull up the box score and we'll get into it, ladies and gentlemen. So, Josh Hart, 5 of 7 from the field, 2 of 4 from downtown as well. So, if he starts to catch a rhythm and knock down those threes, then we're going to be incredibly tough to stop. 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 12 points, plus 21. Josh Hart was an absolute killer tonight. What are your thoughts on his ball game, ladies and gentlemen? He'll get a standout performance grade. Now, Obviously, you know, 2 of 4 from downtown. That's been few and far between. But the 10 rebounds continues to do what he does best. 5 assists as well. We know Hart is a guy that moves the rock and can play at a fast speed. But he's a rough rider. You know, he plays physical, and he'll, you know, clean up the glass too. I think defensively, I think the biggest difference is he's been really solid the last 2 ball games. I think defensively he had really slipped earlier in the season, and we're really starting to see the hallmarks, the trademark of Josh Hart's performance now on both sides of the rock. Only picked up a couple of fouls too, fam, and just 1 turnover. We know Hart's been a turnover machine as of late, but you know, in especially in the Indiana series, right? But only 1 turnover, 12 points, plus 21. Huge standout performance from Josh Hart. And let's keep this rolling. I think good test coming up against Minnesota. On the back of Chris's comment about Clarkson and Hart, Gray says JB, Hart, Bridges are all 21 plus. Yep. And obviously the opponent has a big part in that. But these are the games where you just have to handle your business and look like the superior team. And I don't think you could ask for anything more as a Knicks fan. Obviously, the first half was closer. Second half, we absolutely blew them out, and they didn't want no parts of a game tonight. Did Washington, right? They came into New York City to enjoy the city, and the New York Knicks handled their business on the back of a huge Karl Anthony Towns breakout performance. Now, next, as we continue to shout you guys out, I want to talk about Jalen Brunson's game, right? But before we do that, let's look at the team stats, right? As you see the wire to wire here, right? It was dicey at a minute with Washington, right, getting a solid lead, but the New York Knicks buckled down halfway through that second quarter and really established their dominance with Cat. Um, and then Washington made another big time run. The Knicks got a little sloppy to end that second quarter, but the big Cat 4 point play gave us that momentum. And finally, the third quarter, where the New York Knicks came out and absolutely jumped on these Washington Wizards. So 32 dimes, again, another huge staple of the Mike Brown offense, shooting more threes and at a really good clip, 37% tonight, right? Shooting 40 plus threes a game. We got 32 dimes. The 12 steals was big time tonight with no Mitch, only 3 blocks. But we won the glass, 54 rebounds, and we continue to shoot efficient from the free throw line. So that is really big as well, ladies and gentlemen. As we see the shot charts here, we've got Tony and Jose G and Johnny Chiba in the house, and Super. Great to see you in here. Jose G says, salute CT. Nice to see when Cap has an off night, we can get a win, even though it was against the Wiz. Yeah, you know, we want to build on this habit. And I want to hit on Jalen Brunson up next as we just look at his shot charts here. Inefficient night from JB, but he was attack mode. I think last night only played 32 minutes, so I was expecting a bigger night from Brunson. But like you said, if Cat's the one that's really rolling, it's great to see that we were feeding him. You know, and Cat doesn't have to do it all by himself. You know, so that is excellent, and it actually makes us more unpredictable. Too, fam. You know, when we are getting, you know, that kind of production off of our bench, you know, with Hart and, you know, Clarkson giving us what they're giving us, really, we don't really need Brunson to score as much as in years past. And that is one of the reasons we made that change with the coaching situation. Yeah, great to see, like Jose says, second and third quarters brought us home with the victory. I thought our defense was excellent, and we really made it difficult. I think Washington had to pass 3, 4, 5, 6 times to try to get a decent look, and we still made it tough. I thought we contested really well, and obviously the amount of steals, right? the 12 steals was absolutely big time. As you see, Hart really looks more healthy now in terms of running the floor. So we had another milestone tonight too. Karl Anthony Towns with the 15,000 career points. What a way to do it in style. And last game we had Brunson with the 9,000 points. Cat, man, at 15 grand right now. And he was feeling it, against that matchup, Alex Sarr. So uh, great feed as well. Nice dump down and layoff from Deuce McBride. This is one of the prettiest plays of the Knicks season so far. Look at Cat with that wraparound feed. The Knicks are just playing really unselfish, and you love to see that right now, the way they're rolling. Uh, Doug Fresh Salute says the East is ours. We're going to be great this year, I can feel, as long as we stay healthy. That is a major key. And I definitely want to get Mitch back, though, against Minnesota. Glenn Jones says, salute CT, great win. Best part of this is that they're coming together and beating lower competition onto the Wolves. Yeah, we mentioned the homestand, and we've got Minnesota, Brooklyn, Memphis, Orlando, Miami. So let's keep this streak rolling and see how far we can extend this. I really feel like early part of the momentum early in the season can really be the catalyst to getting that separation and locking down a second, top two seed, top one, top two seed right now. We'll take a look at the standings as we go tonight and shout you guys out. AJ, good to see you. Cat says AJ says Cat established himself as the vet all-star that he is, and we need more of that. Yeah, I like that last part, fam. You said, we have high expectations for Cat, to perform like this on a consistent basis. So that is really important, holding himself accountable. But it's good to, understand game plan wise when we can get that advantage and we go to that matchup every single time, right? Captain doesn't really have to try to beat Koulibaly, who's twice his height, twice his size almost. And, Cat was the guy with the weight, the strength advantage over Alex Sarr, you know. Johnny Cheeba's loving the Clarkson resurgence. Clarkson Kent is Superman. Man, the way he's shooting is Superman style. The way he leans forward. But I think Mike Breen summed it up best, fam. He looks so comfortable in the offense because he's getting some of the best looks that he could possibly get. Going from Utah over to the Mecca with the spacing and the lineups. Now, look at the good spacing in this one, and look at Washington, the way they're defending. They all collapse on Cat on the second one, but that one's a nice catch and shoot. With this one, they collapse on Cat. You got Bridges, you got Shamet, OG, and Brunson out there. So far, so good for Mike Brown. I understand when the Knicks were 2-3, there was a lot of concern, some overreactions about Brown coming in. Obviously, after the 3-game losing streak, it was, disappointing and a tough situation to deal with, but we're back on the right track right now. And it's process over results for me so far this season. When you are a team that's new, as I say, you are just trying to work your way through that early chemistry issue and the rust. And I think we're definitely well and truly shaken that off. Mellow Mike's in the building. Salute Chris Connors. Buzzer says, is Philly for real? CT. That's a great question, man. I'm really always hesitant to say if a team's for real this soon, but they definitely look good. They look a lot more competitive. VJ Edgecombe looks really, really good and a lot ready to contribute, this early in the season. So that is good for Philly. Are they for real in terms of what? A championship? I would say no. Are they possibly, a 3, 4, 5 seed? And maybe a second round, maybe if they're healthy, they could get to the second round. But I wouldn't say they're for real in terms of, a legitimate, championship threat. I do think it's probably too early to say that. But yeah, Mello says, good win. We needed it. yeah, there would have been a lot of doomsday, takes and things like that if we lose the second night of a back-to-back. Um, Last season, this is a game where it would have been really tricky. Would have been a lot of Jalen Brunson isolation. Um, but yeah, we went to that right matchup and attacked their weakness right there. Chris is loving to see the pick and rolls involved with Cat too. Yeah, what are your thoughts on starting Landry Shamet? It obviously allowed Cat to thrive at the 5, and that's another tick, in my opinion, for Mike Brown, right? No Mitch. There was talk whether he would go for like, with Huck Pority or with Jemison, but no, he went with Landry. Yeah, and Landry's been playing really good basketball, and he's really starting to come alive as well. So that's probably the most positive thing in the last two for me. The bench tonight was specifically Cat being mega dominant as well. We had some news drop today, fam, and that the new Knicks City edition is officially announced, right? We see Deuce McBride modeling the new City Edition version, man. That is going to be out real soon. I think in another week or two. The Knicks will debut this City jersey on November 11, I believe, and I might have to pick it up because this looks clean. Right, let us know how you feel about this City Edition jersey, right? I think that's the best we've had in years, man. Absolutely. Chris says, I like Clarkson playing 20 minutes. Very efficient. Yeah, I think it's important to note the lineups that Clarkson is playing with, and he looks really comfortable, um, distributing, handling, and just being more patient. Uh, the way I was feeling last night with the big win, as we look at some of the highlights from last night's performance and all the threes that the New York Knicks got up. You see Clarkson there. I think one, the speed and the pace of our offense is allowing guys to get those threes up uh, with less contest, uh, but also understanding where each other are on the floor. I like the cutting, the repositioning, setting backdoor screens, yeah, and obviously the vision there. You see Hart kick it back out with the paint touches and the splashes as well. And look, I do think when we're fully healthy, our top 9 guys, 10 guys, and we're going to be tough to stop. Uh, Yabusele, I think there's some signs that Yabusele can be a lot better. I'm really watching his minutes, 13 tonight, a lot more, but he's still struggling to make an impact offensively outside of rebounding. Now, I thought tonight he did a better job with the rebounding, which is you know, which is something that I said he can do right now. Yes, he's looking heavy, but he can throw that weight around and try to get us some second chance points. Um, that is really important if he is going to earn some more minutes under Mike Brown. uh, Mello here says Landry Shamet did well. He's consistent with decent shooting and plays hard. No defense always comes to play. I do think Landry knows his role on the team, and that is important. He's not going to whine if he's not getting minutes. And I think that's one of the reasons why the organization, really appreciates what Shamet brings to the table. Speaking of appreciation, right? Last night's win, OG Anunoby. We see the New York Knicks do this, and they award an internal defensive player of the game with the Tims, the vest, and the hard hat, ladies and gentlemen. That is OG Anunoby's second, I think, or third internal defensive player of the game, and I like it. Some recognition amongst the peers, and you see everyone else in the locker room closely connected, and you see the good vibes out here. For tonight's performance, it's going to be interesting to see who gets it. I will refresh X and bring you some updates from the locker room post game as we continue to shout you guys out and look at these highlights as the New York Knicks are on their second 2-game winning streak of the season, right? But we know OG's really trying to lock down that Defensive Player of the Year award, around the NBA. and he looks super locked in. Uh, Now, yeah, let's look at the fast break points, ladies and gentlemen, because that is really key for the New York Knicks to get out and get those stops and get those buckets, right? So the New York Knicks got 16 fast break points, right? And like Jose G says, nice to see us get those points off the fast break more than a younger Wiz team with only 8. Yeah, and don't forget we were second night of the back-to-back. So look, early processes paying off with the New York Knicks playing guys less minutes, playing a longer rotation. I think the drawback was that guys had to, get their chemistry first. And we saw some funkiness early in the season, but now that we're starting to tighten that rotation up, we are starting to see more chemistry, and the 16 fast break points is key. Uh, Washington got a few more second chance points, but the Knicks were dominant with the points in the paint. Yeah, great comment from Chance. I agree. He says Yabu looked better on the boards and setting those screens. Yeah, hopefully it's a thing that can come around. Work in progress with Yabu. But I do think, like you said, he was definitely a lot better on the glass. 2 offensive rebounds, throwing that weight around. I think he's going to have a big game where he can just knock down some of those threes, I think, and get going. But look, the 12 steals is really impressive, as well as the threes and the 32 assists and the bench play. Uh, so we pull up the box score again, right? All the pluses. Landry Shamet was a -6, but played 24 minutes, right? Everyone else basically hugely in the plus. Jordan Clarkson, interesting, +17 in 21 minutes, right? So early returns are really positive with Jordan Clarkson these last 2 games, looking a lot more effective, I think, in his role over campaign. I do think the game has slowed down a bit for Clarkson, making good reads. Got the 2 assists tonight, and obviously we know he's a bucket. He's going to look for his shot, but I do think it doesn't really hurt the offense. He's getting good looks, and the ball is getting spread around. Shout out to Demario, good to see you. Doug Fresh says, I love the double figures, guys. Yep. We had OG Bridges, Cat, JB, Landry, and Josh Hart, and Clarkson. Fam, that's 8 guys. Basically, 8 guys, man. 7 guys. 7 guys in double figures, which is big time, right? Now, Deuce McBride, right? Quieter night, and that's okay, right? 14 minutes. You can't have 9, 10 guys, have huge nights offensively. A couple of guys are going to have a quieter night, especially against, an inferior team. Uh, with that said, though, with Miles McBride, you see the difference in our defense, right? The 2 games that Miles missed due to the personal reasons, against Miami and against no, I think it was Chicago and Milwaukee. The Chicago one on the road and the earlier one against Milwaukee, right? So you take those losses with a grain of salt because we didn't have Mitch, we didn't have Miles McBride, right? So when we are full strength, we are extremely dangerous, guys. And you love to see the chemistry starting to grow with this squad, right? So yesterday we had Jalen Brunson with the 9,000 career points. Today, it was the Karl Anthony Towns explosion with the 15,000 points, right? But look, OG Anunoby will continue to be one of the underrated heroes of the team. The 5 steals tonight needs a huge shout out. 2 assists, 5 steals from OG. Just incredibly, intelligent defender. Knows the passing lanes, plays that well. Can play guys straight up. That steal that he had over was it the new pickup that they had, Washington. His name escapes me. Cam Whitmore. That's it. Cam Whitmore. The way he stole that ball off a live dribble from Cam Whitmore was incredible. And you see in the replay, Cam Whitmore was like, his reaction was like, what just happened? He was demoralized with that. And OG said, hey, you got to be quicker than that. Chances, I just wish we had one more two-way swing for the bench. Yeah, I did think that, that is going to get tested at some point. Is Diawara going to be a guy that steps up? If we need Pacome, Kolek, it's clear that Jemison and Huckporty are kind of out of the rotation right now. If Mitch is out, he's going to start Cat at the 5 and just try to blow teams away, offensively. And as long as the other guys can all play solid defense, we shouldn't have too many problems against guys like Washington and some other teams coming up. We've got Brooklyn after Minnesota. We've got Memphis, who are really struggling. Suspended Ja Morant. They're losing momentum. So the Memphis Grizzlies and the Brooklyn Nets, right? We can't overlook any team. But really, after Minnesota, if we can get a win in that one, you expect that we could go to maybe a 5-game win streak. And then the second night of that back-to-back is against Orlando after Memphis. So that is going to be a test, but that's at MSG as well. So really positive signs with this homestand coming at a good time for these guys to continue to, to mesh and continue to gel, ladies and gentlemen. Look, Hart, 2 of 4 threes. Again, we got to shout that out even more. And we got a super chat from Jose G Insight. My guy Jose, salute to you. Many blessings and great to see you tonight and appreciate the contributions. Jose says, salute to CT. Keeping those streets buzzing and rocking with us with our New York Knicks. Appreciate your work and keeping us up to date. Let's go Knicks. Appreciate you, man. Definitely you're a real one. And great to have you with us rocking out. Win or lose, we hear. And we talk about the road ahead, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to bring up some quotes from POSTGAME, right? Looks like OG Anunoby got that hard hat again, right? 5 steals, defensive player of the game. And OG Anunoby deserves it. Just an unbelievable performance, right? We've got the poll in the chat. I'm definitely going to check in on that to see what has impressed you the most, right? As we roll the full highlights of the ball game, right? The poll in tonight's chat was what impressed y'all the most, and option number 1 is the Cat bully ball, and that's at 47% right now, leading. Option number 2 and 3 are tied at 26%, and that is took care of business on a back-to-back. And Clarkson and Hart are balling. And last but not least, at 0% is Jalen Brunson's adjustment, right? So you guys are feeling the Cat bully ball thing the most impressive tonight, but also taking care of business and the Hart Clarkson performance, right? So really looking forward to see how we play against Minnesota, right? Tougher opponent. It is going to be an opportunity to really stack up against a team that's supposed to be a contender, out west. And, a team that we might even meet in the finals. All goes according to plan. You just never know, right? I do think it's going to be harder for Minnesota than it is for us, to get to the finals. Chris says Clarkson slowly starting to shake off that Utah Jazz stench. Chris, man, I love that. Yeah, look, it's tough to shake off losing habits, There's no doubt about it. But credit to the coaching staff, first and foremost, the leaders too, playing unselfish basketball. Nobody's really freezing anybody out. And that's why I'm really impressed with Brunson's acclamation. Because don't forget, he was so used to dominating the rock and the offense. But we see games like tonight, man. It was the cat show, Bodega Cat, letting everyone know how dominant that he can be against an easier matchup. Um, yeah, Mike Breen mentioned this as well, Chris. The hockey assists were key. Shout out to the underrated passes and guys, keeping that rock moving for the hockey assists too. The swing play. And that's what helps you get those back-breaking threes right here. Hart, dribble penetration, is able to finish strong at the rack. Brunson with the and one play too, finishing over size. Uh, that was one of his limitations, obviously, coming in. But Brunson looks, from last game last night, he looks ready to take that physical matchup and the contact and take it strong. But let's talk about Mikal Bridges, because he is a brand new man, is Mikal Bridges. He looks like a guy that's, from last night's, scene where he was keeping his teammates accountable, making sure that guys are buying in defensively. We are seeing Mikal Bridges, hold his weight, pull his weight offensively and defensively as well, with 3 steals tonight and 2 blocks. Right, 3 steals, 2 blocks too. So wouldn't be surprised if he also got a internal defensive player of the game and a hard hat Tim's in the vest, because Mikal Bridges was a standout with 3 steals, 2 blocks, plus 21 with 10 points on efficiency, just 2 out of 3 threes and 4 of 8 from the free throw line. Like Gray says, don't overlook the Bridges. He's been the most consistent player so far. What a difference a year makes. Great comment, fam. I think Mikal's always been a do-it-all kind of guy, and I just don't feel like we found his role last year, and that's on the coaching staff. It was too much Brunson, too much dribbling, pounding the rock, and we've seen Bridges obviously struggle a bit in Brooklyn as well. So it's not just last season, but getting back to the Phoenix days, it really looks like we're seeing a super version of Mikal Bridges. I think this could be the best season of his career. I think, early days, but he's on track to have the best season of his career, so far, doing on both sides of the floor. Benjamin B says we need to develop Huck. Not a good sign he's not getting meaningful minutes. Yeah, I'm a big Huck guy, so yeah, I definitely feel you on that. I think it's a young season, and I do think injuries play a part. Huck should get plenty of opportunities. I think he's a player for the future, but with Mitch out tonight, I think Mike Brown's kind of looking at the matchups, and he's looking at, okay, Alex Sarr at the 5, and we want to pull him out of the paint, and so my best job is to have Cat play that 5. Now, I think off the bench, I would like to see Huck Porty, get a lot more opportunities. But Gershon Yabusele really stepped up with his 14 minutes. I think we just need more, offense out of him. Great comment from Johnny. And also, I do feel like Huck Porty needs to play in the G League when he's not playing, with the big club. It's important for his development. I know they are reluctant to send some of these guys down to the G League at times, but it is important that they do get those reps. Great question from Johnny Chiba. The Knicks started slow. Why? I do think it was an adjustment to the size and the length that Washington have, and I do think we weren't we weren't getting the stops. We weren't running and gunning until we're able to really lock in defensively, Johnny. So yeah, I think our defense wasn't great to start the ball game. We let Washington get some easy buckets. I think once we really locked in, we started to really get out on the break, and we dominated the fast break points in this one. We're going to say that a lot this season, but our defense really does fuel our offense, because with our spread offense, we are hard to guard, when we are on the break. Other teams don't know where the shot's coming from. it could be a drive, a kick out. Brunson can finish at the basket. McCall as well. Um, and obviously, Washington on the second night of a back-to-back, I think they were running and gunning early, and they were really trying to really run us out of the gym tonight, but it didn't work. We answered the first challenge, and then we laid down the gauntlet. uh, yeah, Benjamin, I really like Trey Jemison as well, so it's good to have a couple of backups. But yeah, this season it's going to be a huge situation to watch with the Mitch extension, and seeing how that plays out. Uh, Obviously, the organization prioritizes Mitch as the starter, and he's coming up to a contract, off season, and we'll see what plays out. Huck Porty's on an expiring deal too, so Trey Jemison's only on the two-way, so he can only play, X amount of games, which is going to be hopefully not too much of a hindrance. We might need to convert him, I think, to a regular deal at some point. Um, yeah, I agree with Chance on this one. And as I pull up the box score, the amount of minutes is something I've been watching. Not really part of the minutes police, but just noticing the change and the difference between last season's approach, right? OG Anunoby 32, McCall 29, Karl Anthony Towns with 30, Brunson 32, and obviously the blowout victory allowed these guys to sit in the last 3 to 4 minutes. But uh, even if that wasn't the case, those guys would have only played 35, 34, 35. So I think as the season goes along, that is going to be a really helpful thing to have, with guys less banged up, more rest, and hopefully, yeah, blow out more of these teams. When it comes to that, Karl Anthony Towns and the 3-point ball is a huge weapon that is going to be tough to stop, right? That play where they tried to close out on Cat and it just resulted in a three from Alex Sarr, and right, that is awareness as well from Josh Hart, right? Good swing play from Yabu. Shout out to Yabu. I think he had his best game in this one. Resulted in a Clarkson three, but Yabusele kick out to Hart. Hart swing to Jordan Clarkson. So that is also one of the best plays of the game. Hockey assist abound. Started with Brunson to Yabu's drive, and then to Josh Hart for the real assist in this one. But a lot of unsung heroes in this ball game. But as you noticed by the tone of my voice, not getting too carried away with this, right? All we did tonight was handle business, and against Minnesota is a game where we need to play our best. And like, it does look like Mitch will be back, hopefully. Today was more of a rest, precaution kind of thing. And, we're going to need him to, um, to beat those teams. And look, who's going to take on the Ant-Man matchup? Possibly our defensive player, OG Anunoby, as I roll OG's highlights in this one. 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 steals, and 2 assists from the OG Anunoby, right? Looks fully healthy and is running the floor really, really well in this one. Chris says, Kispert is a sniper, and that he wasn't missing yet. Yeah, last night it was Josh Giddey. He was a hella efficient. Tonight was Kispert. But the New York Knicks, they're really adjusted, I think, defensively. And our rotations have been pretty good over these last two. Now, one of the biggest weaknesses last season to our defense was our 3-point defense. It seems like Thibodeau's, game plan was to pack the paint and, to stop those drives. But our 3-point defense last season was pretty terrible, and this season's been a lot better. Granted, it hasn't been a lot of Cat at the 5. We've had Mitch for a game. or two. We've had Huck Porty start one game, and I think we've had some other guys as well. But for the most part, our 3-point defense has been pretty decent, right? And we're staying more disciplined. Last season we had a lot of blow-bys in terms of, bad contests where we just bail, guys out to, with the blow-by. And we're staying more disciplined with our contests. So we have some quotes from Mike Brown right now as I pull it up. Mike Brown says that Josh Hart is tonight's defensive player of the game, right? He more than deserved it because of his activity and his awareness throughout the course of the entire ball game, right? So that's very interesting. Might not show up on the stat line with no steals and no blocks, despite OG getting 5 and Macau getting 3. But Hart was sensational, plus 21 in his 26 minutes. He's definitely taken that criticism on board in his stride, and has come out and has definitely played 2 excellent ball games. Jose G says, I'm assuming Mitchie plays on Wednesday, having 2 nights off. Yeah, I think that's the plan all along, Jose. I think, keeping Mitchell Robinson as fresh and, on the court as much as possible. And we've got the depth now. So legit, great game plan. Didn't really need Mitchie in this one, right? As Cat was dominant at his position, right? As I pull up now, our defensive player of the game, you see it. Congrats to Josh Hart. Salute, right? Got the hard hat, the Tims, and the vest, the work vest on, right? And everyone else loving it in the background as the Knicks locker room will enjoy this now with the 2-game win streak, 2-game win streaks. And I think the vibes are going to be high heading into Wednesday night, ladies and gentlemen. So what a bounce back from Josh Hart, man. That's why I never write Josh Hart off, man. He might have 2 or 3 stinkers in a row, but the way that guy bounces back, man, he plays with pride. And we were talking in the comment section in last night's post game about Hart mentioning that he has that joy back that he didn't have last season at times, and he's playing with more joy, which is a telling thing to say. And you could interpret that, I think, many different ways. But obviously, I think the burden of having to play 35, 38 minutes under a coach that loved to play him and maybe overplayed him a lot, Hart is feeling like, I think, a load off of his shoulders, playing in a role where there's less responsibility, but he can also thrive more in his limited role, and I think that is one of the stories of the season, with Hart playing less than 25 minutes per night. And you could see the best of him with what he does best, which is run the break, rebound, stay healthy, get those 30-70 balls, and just be an absolute nemesis for the opponent, right? So congrats to J Hart. Chance says, my biggest fear is that our draft neglect will bite us. Every player taken within our traded picks is better than those we drafted. I think there's 2 sides to that coin, and I love building through the draft, and you see the evidence with Deuce McBride, you see Mitchell Robinson, hopefully Kolek and Diawara can really press on. But the 2 sides to the coin is it could hurt us, but we're in a situation where we're as close as we've ever been to that championship. So the organization's made that tough decision to say, hey, we're going to go for it, and look, to their credit, they didn't trade Dardier. Brogdon retired, and we're obviously going to see how that works itself out and how that plays out. But yeah, hopefully we can continue to develop more guys. We have invested in a lot of these assistant developmental coaches, right? Guys are going to hit plus 30 in a minute, right? Now, we are quite young still in terms of our nucleus, but it is a great situation to have where, you know, you do have plenty of young talent still on the squad with Huck, Dardier, Diawara, McCullough, and Deuce McBride's still young. I hope we can extend him. Right, I hope that we can extend um, Deuce McBride. I know Mitchell Robinson gets a lot of talk, but it would be huge for this organization, I think, to find a way to extend Deuce McBride. So we have the Knicks account post that the Knicks are 4-0 at MSG. Right, so that is a key stat to look out for as the season goes along. Too. Last season, I personally was not happy with the way we played at Madison Square Garden, and obviously the playoffs, was our undoing, failing to close out some late game tricky situations. Right, this season 4-0 at home is a really good start, I think, to our defense of Madison Square Garden. Now, Mike Brown's comments on Cat, his 33-point performance, says he's a monster. So I think we're seeing the best of Mikal Bridges under Mike Brown. One of the biggest, tasks and things that Mike Brown is looking to correct from last season is getting more out of Karl Anthony Towns, and that's what a lot of people were looking at the day Mike Brown got hired. It's like, okay, can we get more out of Cat defensively and offensively? You know, and so far, Cat's looked solid in this tonight, and he's starting to look more healthy. Johnny Chiba says Hart's play was affected by the injuries, right? Let's see how aggressive he is pain free. His nose for that rebound is David Lee like. Yeah, he's an old school throwback, Johnny and Johnny Chiba. And I feel like, you see those players in the 90s that weren't great shooters, but yeah, they would play major minutes because they could just, dominate in other ways. And the thing with Hart is he ain't the worst shooter. It's just been that he's so hesitant sometimes to let it fly. That can hold up the offense just as much as missing. You take that rhythm shot. You'd be surprised how more efficient you can be, but also back your teammate to grab the rebound. I think the more that you kind of stall and and hesitate, I think can hold things up. So, the, I said this last night. I'll never forget Hart's first season and a half with the Knicks. Man, he just played with so much confidence, so much energy. The city was buzzing. The shooting was okay as well, and I just hope we can go back to that. I hope that we can get that version of Hart still, because that's a championship level team right here with Josh Hart playing like he did in that first season since he arrived. Um, Salute to Shay, great to see you in here tonight. Everyone else buzzing, got the streets buzzing, and salute to the New York Knicks for their fourth win in a row, back-to-back wins for the second time. Big test coming up on Monday. Now, Doug Fresh says he's a beast. Cat, love that guy, and a passer, love the assist. He had some great dimes tonight, Doug Fresh, and like I said earlier, I don't think no one's really forcing it. You see, look, great pass up the floor as well. That's the definition of a stop turning into transition. Um, Now here, Cat looked up. He could have even passed that out to the corner shooter, but he noticed that Hart was moving forward, not in position. But yeah, another great feed from JB finding OG tonight. So I think it was an unselfish performance from the entire team. But I do think that Brunson's been, excellent, in terms of changing the offense and understanding that the ball needs to start moving more. Guys are getting those threes up, with a passion. As we see Yabusele, he's tweeted out orange and blue heart too. So that is excellent to see the chemistry of some of our new Knicks really start to click. Now, you've got Clarkson and Yabusele starting to play a lot more like themselves. Here, Hart's talking about Mike Brown, right? So he says he's always had an open door. If you don't understand something, don't understand what's going on, you can just go to him and talk to him. So Hart's talking about the approachable nature of Mike Brown, right? So I think he is more of a player's coach, if I'm being honest, over Tom Thibodeau. And obviously you see Mikal Bridges, play the way he is playing. So that is really big for those guys to feel like they can, speak to Mike Brown at any time, any questions or they need to get clarification, right? We need to iron out these kinks before the playoffs, right? So another quote here from Mike Brown that I'm going to post. And Nick says, Mike Brown says, I love it. If any of our guys are open from three, we want to let it fly. And he's talking about OG Anunoby's aggressiveness, right? Getting those threes up. So, yeah, I do think that it helps to have rhythm shooters as well. Clarkson and OG are definitely rhythm shooters, along with Midi Macau. And we know Cat and Brunson are excellent at the catch and shoot as well. But the rhythm threes, Clarkson and OG, are definitely what we need, I think, to get this offense humming, right? Transition, we're tough to stop, first and foremost, too. So you've got to continue to get those stops, ladies and gentlemen. 32 dimes. Ian Begley's talking about the two strong nights, last night, tonight. 32 dimes on 44 makes in the win over Washington. The day after hitting 23s in the win over the Bulls, Cat had 33, 13, and 5 dimes in his best offensive performance, right, of the season. And I think we're definitely starting to hum. Appreciate you, Doug Fresh. Everyone in here as well, rocking with us. Johnny Chiba says Hart's 3-pointers were part of his resurgence. Hesitancy replaced by fluidity. Great words there. I think coming back to feeling more healthy, like you said earlier, and also coming back to feeling that joy again. And what do you guys feel like Hart was thinking when he said, I'm getting my joy back, from as opposed to last season, right? It's hard not to think about the coach and, the way Hart was, playing in his role with the major minutes, 38 to 40 minutes. And taking away all of that, I just think it contributed to his health issues as well, right? I know it sounds like common sense, but when you overplay a player, the chances that they're going to pick up an injury increase, right? And what was the common theme with Josh Hart last season, man? He was always banged up. It was a knock, it was a bruise, it was a contusion, it was a lacerated face, eye poke. It was everything, man. He's all over the place. And I think when you're playing a guy 38, 40 minutes and the way he plays physically, he's not going to survive without getting banged up. And I think most of these guys, we just need to get them to the finish line healthy. And we're going to be good enough to beat anybody, right? We just have to get to the finish line. And then we can really bring that chip home, right? Because look, you never know what's going to happen out west, man. It might not even be OKC come out. It might not even be OKC. It could be the Golden State Warriors. It could be the Lakers. It could be Minnesota. As I'm going to pull up this from Jordan Clarkson. Clarkson says, I think he got a good paycheck, so he's a little bit more of an a-hole now, says Clarkson of Josh Hart. So he's showing his comedic side, and he's also posted his love of the back-to-back dubs, right? Josh Hart from the locker room now says, I love JC. JC is a professional scorer, man. So yeah, we're seeing more of that chemistry with those two guys playing in LA. So that is really important that we continue to see the chemistry build with this one, right? Now I'm going to bring up the games from today, and we'll take a look at today's action, right? So we have the Pacers and the Bucks. Pacers took the L against the Milwaukee Bucks, so they continue a good start to the season. Our next opponent, Minnesota, score the win over the Brooklyn Nets, who will face after Minnesota. The Celtics took a L to the Utah Jazz, right? Utah finally getting a win they desperately needed. The Rockets get the big win over the Mavs. The Grizzlies, who will face next Tuesday, took the L against the Pistons, who are starting to find some rhythm. And we have the Nuggets. Looks like they're 9 points ahead with 4 minutes to play over the Kings. The Blazers and the Lakers are neck and neck. And we have the Clippers and the Heat closely locked in at 30-32 apiece. So interesting, right? As we see the standings start to take more shape, right? The New York Knicks have moved up to seed number 5 right now on the back of this 2-game winning streak. Now ahead of the Cleveland Cavaliers, ahead of the Miami Heat, right? And we are not far behind the Bucks, right? But the Bucks will pick up another win. We have the Bulls obviously off to a good start, 5-1, and Philly, who buzzer beater asked, "Are they for real?" at 5-1 as well, right? I think some early success, just an early success story, from the season. Every year there's a couple of early success stories, but I don't really think that the Bulls and Philly are for real. So I do think you're going to start to see things adjust. The Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, are now fully on the come up too. Johnny Chiba says CT dimes are the antithesis of hero ball. They are the key to winning ball, especially with top players capable of being heroes. Great comment about, too, with the 70 championship team, sharing is caring, and definitely getting, the defense second guessing. We saw how difficult the Bulls are, to play, because, they're a team that are really unpredictable. And I think for the Knicks to ultimately win that championship, you obviously need talent. That goes without saying. But you need to be unpredictable, because I think otherwise, you're just tough to game plan against, and you're easier to game plan against. And I do think Thibodeau's offense, whilst we were extremely talented, and Tibbs is a good coach, we were more predictable, to game plan against. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap this thing up as the Knicks now try to look to extend this winning streak to 3 after the 2 wins back to back. Bulls, Wizards in the rear view. We got Minnesota up next. We got Dante, familiar faces, Julius Randle, and Karl Anthony Towns, former team. And then the Dubs can continue to roll with Brooklyn, Memphis, Orlando. Let's keep the streets buzzing, ladies and gentlemen, and climb these standings, right, and get back to where we need to be, right? I want that top seed now. I really feel like I want that top seed. We're better than Cleveland. We're better than Miami. We're better than Milwaukee. I believe, and we're starting to play like that right now. So let's keep it rolling, fam. Let's keep this thing rolling. Appreciate you in the building tonight, Jose G, with the super chat contribution, and everyone else with the comments and quotes, questions. Keep it rolling, fam. And we'll see you back on Wednesday night. Big up and blessings to everyone out here. Salute to Replay Squad, as Karl Anthony Towns put an exclamation point on this one and dominated an inferior opponent too. You love the defense in this one. Macau, 3 steals. OG with the 3 steals, 5 steals, sorry, as well. Peace up to everyone, and let's get it on the next one.